what point of the communication do you think was lacking? I mean, they were checking their checklist, which, seems like appropriate, and you were trying to communicate your issues, but somewhere there was a gap that you guys just could not cross.
So I would say the biggest reason that there was that gap is they were looking for these huge, big signs. And it's not always that way. If you look at the list, postpartum.net is a great resource to find a provider to help you, or to look at a symptoms list, because we think, oh, if you're depressed, you're suicidal, you're really sad, you're all these things. And so that's kind of what they're looking for. I noticed providers are looking for these big, glaring signs. And that's not what I was feeling. I was feeling things that you would have to look at and know it was a symptom, like really say, okay, you're not really interested in talking about baby's nursery. You're kind of anxious about planning. You're not sleeping. Like, not sleeping is like during pregnancy. That's kind of a thing, right? Because you have some little person jabbing at your bladder. Of course you're not sleeping, right? So I feel like they were always attributing the things that I was feeling or the symptoms that I was reporting as just being a normal course of pregnancy and not looking deeper into them. And I think that's part of it. It's the subtle things that really kick you in the backside when you have depression, when you're pregnant. So I think that they need to be looking for things that are more subtle and have those as part of the checklist and the screening process. Because I would imagine that 14 to 23% that ACOG talks about as having depression during pregnancy is actually a much bigger number. It just is hard to get a diagnosis.
And like I said, the clock is ticking.
Yes. Yes.
So you go to your provider, you say, I have this issue, and they say, well, maybe it's just pregnancy. And then you come back the next month, you may say the same thing, and they're like, I don't know. Well, you're already wasted X amount of time not doing anything. So it's one of those things where maybe a patient should be more direct and say, I still think I have a problem. Can you refer me to somebody? Because even a referral usually takes time. And if you get to like 5 months, 6 months in and they're referring to you, yeah, better a couple of months of some kind of treatment than nothing. But no, really, you should have had help way before then.
And the truth is, with those providers who are specializing in seeing people who are with that condition, they often are very booked up. I remember I got a call the week after I had my child that I could finally go in and see that specialist for my prenatal depression. And I was holding my kid already, which that would have made it 36 weeks, almost 37 for me in a pregnancy. That's a very long time to be going through something like that where every minute is agony. But I do think you're right. Being able to word your concerns so your provider takes you seriously, that's the hard part, because you're so tired, you're so worn out, you just want help, and you may not be able to say the things that you need to get the process started because you're just worn out. You can't advocate for yourself anymore. And I think that's another thing, that how to word your concerns so your provider understands it's serious.
Or just basically say, I want help now.
Right.
Just one of the problems, depression basically is kind of slow motion paralysis. It keeps you from being able to do the things you need to do to advocate for yourself. So it's like the worst possible thing. It's like, I need help, and yet I'm unable to get help because I just cannot get myself to that point where I'm actually asking someone for help. You just think there's something wrong with me. Someone please tell me what to do. And they say, oh, I don't know, maybe you're just pregnant. It's like, no. And it's like, so frustrating.
Exactly.
How early did it hit you?
Oh my gosh. So right about the time I took my pregnancy test, I'm like, well, maybe it's just early pregnancy and I feel like crap. But it was the entire thing.
Wow.
And I told the first provider I saw, because your first appointment's usually with like a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant at this, because they don't see you till 12 weeks, but they kind of like see you to get you in as a patient. So I was saying, oh, I'm just not me. Like, I'm not interested in anything. I don't really care if I'm pregnant, you know? I mean, to me, if someone said, I don't really care, and especially because this was planned, this was definitely, I want to be pregnant. I don't really care if I'm pregnant. If that doesn't scan, I would look at that as a huge red flag. But she's like, oh, you just need to, just relax. I thought, well, maybe she's right because I am a little anxious about things, but it never got any better. And I remember laying on the floor in what would be the baby's nursery because I was trying to think, okay, I've got to focus. I have to get some stuff in here. I had clothes, but I just couldn't think beyond that. And I was laying on the floor crying because I could not handle the thought of getting a crib or a dresser or anything. I just couldn't handle any of that. So, they talk about people, oh, it's normal to cry a ton when you're pregnant. No, if you're feeling whatever you're feeling, it's okay to tell your provider. And for people who are not being listened to, I am so sorry because that's the hardest thing, to keep bringing something up or to know that there's something wrong and not be able to connect with your provider about how it's going to be treated.
So, question: Has has anyone ever been told, quote unquote, you need to relax more, found this helpful, or do you just feel dismissed?
I never thought that was a good answer for anything. It's not a good answer for anything. It's not even a good answer if you think your pedicure is smudged, right? So why would that be an acceptable answer if you're bringing up a concern and it's your health? Yeah, I hated it. And just hearing things like you need to do these, like go have lunch with a friend or, or go shopping. I think the problem really was that one, if that's kind of a privileged way to fix things, to go, spend money or go have fun. Not everyone has that option. And I didn't at that time. And just not being heard, like how much of that can you put up with before you try and find a different provider who's going to give you that attention? Because I know a lot of the time with midwives who do home births, or they really pride themselves on how they're your friend. Like in a situation like mine, a provider like that would have been like, oh, it would have been so nice. It would have been someone's listening to me, and it wouldn't have solved what I was going through at all. But I would have been heard. And I think that would have made some kind of difference in my head. I certainly would not, I don't know about outcomes with the way my kid turned out, but, it would have made me feel like I was being cared for more than a provider who told me I need to go have lunch with a friend. Like someone who just listened to me would have been awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think.
There's a lot of people who pick providers like that.
I'm thinking, let's see, if you had a home birth midwife and you called her and said, my water broke, she'd say, oh, well, let me know if, you start having contractions. Your kid would have been born at home.
It's true. The kid would have been just born like in the shower or something. I can see it already. And I probably would have been by myself. So, and I definitely would not have been stitched up properly. It would just tell me to keep my legs together.
Oh,
you know what? Actually,
that was so painful.
Because you were early, they probably would have said, it wasn't your water. That wasn't this.
Oh, that's true.
They would have told you peed yourself. They would have actually dismissed you and said, that wasn't your water that broke. So if you're just early, you must have drank too much and, you woke up wet.
Well, I mean, technically, I turned over and I had a full bladder because I hadn't gone out of bed yet. So yeah, they would have just told me that.
They would have been like, you just don't know. You're a first time mom. You don't know that.
Yeah. Besides,
I heard
they got to
that.
get you to 37 weeks so you can have your birth with them.
I think even 36 weeks, right? A lot of them do 36 and they fudge the numbers.
Yeah, that
They changed
makes.
the dates.
I think that they'll say 36 and then they'll kind of be like,
But it was really 37.
yeah. But you know, it only goes that direction once you're before 40 weeks, and then it keeps rolling backwards once you get to 40 weeks. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, like my state has like no anything. So, I mean, really, they could do preemies at home here and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyways, there's no laws. So
We have regulations and it doesn't make much of a difference for our providers who do in-home birth. So yeah, sometimes I think about that and I'm like, well, because I had a friend who a couple months before had a home birth, and she'd had a really bad home birth and transfer a couple years before. So she'd done this and she's like, oh, she had her 10-pound baby in a pool in her living room, and she was completely happy because she finally got the experience she wanted. And now I look at our kids and, you know, because they go to they're in the same school district, and you can't really tell who was born what way and who did what and who ate one way, or, you know, they're just, you know, if you look at them, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So whatever. But I know that for her, trying to recover from those injuries, she didn't have the resources I did because I chose providers that could refer me or could help me out at the time of need. So yeah, I feel very, very happy about having chosen that, even though it was more upsetting to go through a pregnancy where every time I went in, there was like, oh, and now your blood pressure's high. Oh, you have diabetes and we have to do this. And so that part was hard because you don't go into a pregnancy planning to have complications. And it's like, oh, add it to the list, you know. But I am very pleased with being able to have providers who could help me, really help me, and not tell me, oh, it's okay, we'll just give you herbs or just eat a certain, you know, like the brewer diet or whatever. When it comes down to it, that was very good care that I got. I can't complain.
well, you know what? You just made me think of something because you went back to the herbs. You know, if you had a midwife and you had told a midwife about all this stuff, maybe they listened to your concerns, maybe they didn't. But you know what they would tell you is as soon as you have your baby, all your feelings are going to change anyways. Just wait for the golden hour and magically all your depression just goes away. Because I actually have heard that in home birth from some of my friends that had home births, and they probably had depression while they were pregnant. Some of them were totally disconnected from their babies, but they were told, yeah, once you pop out your baby in your bathtub kind of thing, like in the tub, you're totally going to connect, everything's going to be fine. And that's what you would have experienced. As much as it's great to have somebody talking and hanging out with you and listening to you, how much are they actually listening to you and how much is actually getting dismissed? And, you know, you're just getting told everything is okay and everything's normal. It's all part of the pregnancy process. So I'm sure there's a lot that are at home and birth centers that are probably have depression stuff that we don't know anything about. Nothing.
I mean,
and breastfeeding. That's what they would have said too.
It'll cure
breastfeeding will cure your, yes. Yeah.
Or we need to get that placenta as soon as you deliver it, and we're going to dry it for you. We'll make you a tincture. We'll make you pills. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's even worse because you feel like, oh, okay, they're doing something to help me, and it's not real help. Like, you know, do you want someone who's going to give you some BS and that makes you feel cared for? You need to value yourself more than that.
Yeah.
Well, look at mine did that, remember?
Yeah.
Mine brought her placenta pills over to me. Her placenta pills from one of her kids. She brought them over to my house.
It wasn't even your own placenta.
Yeah,
it's hers. Thanks for sharing. Yuck.
Yes.
Yes. No, I don't want your organs. Oh, get out of here.
She's like, put it in the fridge. Oh my God, yeah, put it in the fridge. And she wrote me a little, like, almost like a prescription of what your doctor would be like, take it this many hours and blah, blah, blah. And I like gave it, you know, to my husband, and he kind of went in, and then he was like, when she gave me a bunch of stuff, oils and herbs. And yeah, I had a whole list of crap. Take this oil, do this tea. Oh yeah, it's just soup. I'm serious. Like, I don't have any of it. It all went in the garbage, but I wish I maybe took a picture so I could actually show everybody what it actually was, like the prescription for midwives. But I remember going in the house, and it was in a paper bag, like as if you would go to the liquor store and you'd get like a fifth or something. You get something they put in the little paper bag. That's what it was in. And I remember, yes. And I remember my husband being like, "What is this?" Like as if she brought alcohol or something. And I think it's her placenta. And he was like, "What the hell do we have her placenta for?" And he's like, "I'm just gonna throw this away." And I was like, "Okay." And like literally he just, because I was like so out of it, I was like, "Okay." And he just like threw it away because I like couldn't connect the dots at the time. I was like, "She just gave us her placenta." And he was like, "Garbage."
Yeah, it wasn't even like, I can't get over that. It's not even yours. I mean, most of the people who are the placenta pill or tincture people make me sick anyway, because you deliver this organ your body doesn't need anymore. They take it from you, they process it, they charge you to give it back. So they're charging you for this thing you didn't need anymore, and they give it back to you. And it's not even a thing. It's not anything helpful. That whole thing, it's just like, I remember my friend who had the home birth, and she's like, beet juice, and she was doing all this stuff, and her mom was getting her all these things from Whole Foods. And I was thinking, and what is this for? Well, it's to heal after birth, and I've got a whole series of body work with a chiropractor planned, and it's going to get me back into shape. And I'm like, okay, and the baby wearing and all the things are supposed to help you heal while making you a better parent. And it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot to put on someone who's just gone through this process of growing a baby in them. And then now they have to care for it. And then you expect them to be its food source for a very long time and to be the only one providing primary care for it. It's just so much. I liked having a partner who could do things and who could, you could have the child with them and you didn't have to worry. You're like, cool, you're going to give the baby a bottle. I think I will take a shower. I need a shower. And just knowing that baby needs to be taken care of. I couldn't have come this far if I didn't have a partner who understood and who valued me as a person, not just a parent.
Well, I think one of the most important things to do is, because I ended up in the trap of exclusively breastfeeding because it worked, and caring for my child because my husband worked. And at no point did we ever sit down before we had either child and say, okay, we're going to have a baby and the baby's going to need a lot of care. And I want you to commit to doing X amount of time caring for this child. And so basically I did, 95% of the work, and he pitched in, but one, he wasn't very comfortable doing it because he didn't do it very much. And two, he didn't really understand what I needed because we never sat down and had that conversation. And so really, when you have your partner help out from the very beginning, doing a significant amount of work, they are helping you. They are learning to be comfortable caring for their child. It's nothing but a win-win situation. And then doing all of it yourself. And I was definitely resentful because I needed help and I didn't know how to ask for it. And when I did ask, he'd be like, oh, sure, I can help, I guess. And, he wasn't being very proactive. I wasn't being very proactive. So I ended up being not feeling very supported because we did not talk about what I needed in terms of support. You don't get what you don't ask for. Trust me on this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We tell people that for job interviews, but we don't talk about what that means for two people who are going in and adding a child to their life. There has to be a plan. I know people who have birth plans that are 3 or 4 pages long and they have everything you could ever think of. But what about a plan for how you're going to parent a child? That should be important too.
Yeah. The afterbirth plan. What are you going to do when you go home? What's going on other than the birth? Yeah. Nobody talks about that.
I wish that there was more. I know there's a disconnect, especially in this country, for care and what you do after you have a child. And it's kind of like, oh, you got a kid, take care of it. And that's fine. There isn't a lot of support for people who want to parent, but who also have to do things like work and be something other than a parent.